Thank you. Thanks, Brianna. We good?
Yep.
Okay. Um, well, really welcome to the Scituate Conservation Commission September 23rd meeting. I have a couple of quick things to read as usual. This meeting is being held virtual as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. And number two, town of Scituate's commitment to statement to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during our meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. And then we ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and to support and respect our community. That said, we have an agenda. Do we have any additions, omissions?
Um,
Um,
Jen, the stuff I talked about today, I don't see it on the agenda
Right, we
discussion,
wanted to add returning money to CPC,
possibly. And,
possibly.
yep.
yep,
And I think a discussion on possibly CPC going after some funding for some more open space.
yeah,
There was one more thing too, Frank, I can't think. And I have an update on Mordecai, a good one.
okay.
Was there something else, Frank, we wanted to?
Jen and I were trying to remember earlier. Maybe we can just update on Driftway Park
Oh, okay.
and and then if we had a minute, we'll see how the meeting goes.
Yeah.
If anybody has any thoughts on the tree policy, or the new signs. And I think that's it for me. Yep. So we could get a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as written with the add-ons, Frank, and I just mentioned.
Okay, and a second from somebody.
Second from Jen.
Thank you, Jen. All in favor? Richard
Yes.
and Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you. Okay. What do we have first tonight? 279 Gannett. This was continued from August 19th. Jen, do you want to update us on that one a little bit?
Yes, we did a site visit and we have our peer reviewer, Devin Tabor, on the call also. She provided comments and Darren Grady provided an updated plan in response to those comments as well. So I don't know if maybe we want to hear from Devin.
Yeah. We do.
Hi, commission members. Can you all hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. Just for the record, this is Devin Tabor with Lucas Environmental. Am I not able to show you my video or?
No, we share from our screen here.
Okay, no worries. I just tried and I was like, okay, I don't know. No problem at all. So I provided a comment letter on September 19th last week, and as Jen just said, it looks like the applicant did provide a revised plan and some additional materials. Unfortunately, I have not been able to take a deep dive into that. And I specifically wanted to take a close look at the proposed riverfront area calculations to make sure that the proposed degraded areas did not exceed the allotted 10% of the already existing degraded area on the site. And I also wanted to inform the commission that it looks like I did not receive the wetland report. It looks like it was supposed to be attached to the revised materials, but I don't know where that is. It looks like the applicant and Grady Consulting, so Darren, said that I was supposed to be touching base with Mr. Brad Holmes from ECR, and I have not really touched base with him on this project. I really wanted to take a look at his wetland report before you guys were able to consider any conditions or any condition of approving the project. So I can either go through my comments right now, or I can answer any questions that the commission members might have. But again, right now I haven't been able to look at the revised submittal, so it would be my recommendation not to entertain a closing of the project this evening.
Okay. Devin, why don't you go ahead and give us what you do have?
Brad Holmes, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the review and the comments that I submitted just have to do with the riverfront area, I would say, is the number one priority. It also looks like the applicant, is proposing to remove 2,800 square feet of I don't know if that's a combination of the concrete patio that we talked about on the site walk, but I think that's an improvement based upon the initial project, since that's pretty close up to the coastal bank and to the salt marsh. It concerns me that they're now going to be proposing a little temporary activity in the salt marsh, but in a brief skim through the updated WPA3 form, it looks like that wasn't initially or added to the revised submittal. But yeah, I can just run through the peer review section by section and then answer any questions either at the end or if that works.
That sounds good.
Okay. So in review of the delineation, when Jen and I were on site with the applicant and the representatives, it looks like the delineation, is consistent. I don't have any quarrels with that. One of the comments really was I wanted to see the transects associated with their determination of the top of coastal bank, because they did note that, the bank is delineated specifically referencing figure 2 of DEP's policy. So I just want to make sure that the commission, has all of the information with regards to that delineated coastal bank boundary. Additionally, the project did not have any riverfront area calculations. They referenced in the initial application that the project was within buffer zone 2, bordering vegetated wetlands. However, it's also in buffer zone to salt marsh. So one of my concerns, after our site walk was that they were working within close proximity to the coastal bank and to the salt marsh. So I wanted to be sure that the commission had those calculations, specifically referencing those in the approved order. So there's something that can, come back with later down the road with regards to the COC to make sure that they didn't impact more than what was allotted and approved. But we walked portions of the upland vicinity, and the proposed project did not, there any additional wetland resources other than the riverfront area, land subject to coastal storm flowage, buffer zone to both bordering vegetated wetlands and salt marsh and coastal bank. So within land subject to coastal storm flowage, I saw on the revised WPA form, as I again skimmed through things before this meeting, that there was no number associated with impacts. So the entire site is within land subject to coastal storm coverage. There should be some sort of calculation, whether that's temporary in nature or in kind. You know, I'm not too sure what the project's impacting as a whole within that resource area. So we recommend that the applicant addresses that specific resource area, make sure to include a number so that the commission understands what's going on. With regards to the coastal bank, again, so I just want to see transects. I think that'll be beneficial for you guys. And then I would also want to be sure that there's no permanent impacts that'll cause any adverse impact to the bank itself, since they're going to be working by pulling out, the cement patio that's out there, the concrete patio, and then doing some repair on the wall that's between, the coastal engineering structure that's between the salt marsh and the landform associated with the lot. So I think the salt marsh was delineated correctly. Again, I want to just look at the wetland report that was included within the filing. And now that they're going to be working on the retaining wall, I would like them to run through the performance standards under 310 CMR 10.32. Just show us that there's going to be no adverse impact. It shouldn't be. It's going to be temporary in nature. However, they should make sure that they use the correct erosion control. And, more or less, I think that's a very sensitive area. So the commission should have some eyes on that. With regards to the riverfront area, I saw that they ran through the redevelopment standards and the new development standards. I'm not too sure if the new plans clarify if there's new development. I know this property or this project is, redevelopment. But there were some areas on the site that, that were manicured lawn or were already vegetated. So I just want to make sure that, everything's accounted for with regards to calculations to both of those standards under 310 CMR 10.54 and 584 and 585. If whoever's controlling the screen, could we just go over to the riverfront area table? That would be helpful. So I see that the table addresses existing degraded, total riverfront area, total proposed degraded. Now, based on this table, it looks like they're exceeding. So you're allotted 1,098 square feet if you've got 10,983 square feet of total existing riverfront area on the site, because that would be 10%. So I know that they're removing existing degraded areas associated with the concrete patio and whatever else is calculated into that. So that's 2,800. So it's just not clear based upon what information is provided if they need to mitigate or not. They're saying that they don't now, but if they're over, does the commission want the 2,800 to be counted towards their proposed degraded, or do, more or less it's an improvement? So I guess there should be some conversation on that. And then according to the notice of intent narrative, there's a net decrease of impervious areas proposed in the project, which includes the proposed gravel drives stormwater management system. I just want clarification on how the project as proposed meets 10.585 C and D. And then under the bylaw, you guys have a 50-foot buffer zone. I know there wasn't a waiver included originally, and that there may have been one added in the revised submittal. So I just want to make sure that that's addressed. And then I guess a lot of what, we looked at in the documentation that was provided in the original submittal just covers, calculations There was some proposed landscaping and invasive species removal, which looks like it was removed and taken away as part of this revised submittal. If there needs to be proposed offsite mitigation, that, we might want to discuss bringing that back into the project, with obviously the owner and abutters, written in legal, statement that that's authorized for the proposed work, but I'm not, again, I'm not sure if that's necessary. And then with the site plans, we just asked for a few revisions. One, including removing the proposed pool and deck that were within the 50-foot buffer zone out of that zone. It looks like on the revised submittal, they did that, which is great. And then there was some clarification on species that were being proposed, or we'd like some clarification on species that were being proposed, and then where the fence line was going to be. All of our other comments kind of pertain to the mitigation, and it looks like they made some adjustments, including our recommendation on revising the replacement tree species from 6 eastern white pine to some salt tolerant species such as black cherry, eastern red cedar, and pitch pine. So I think that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know it's a lot to digest. So
Okay, thank you. Just wondering if we want members to comment, or do we want to go switch to Grady, let them maybe is Darren
Yeah, I'm
representing
here.
this? Darren, why don't you address what you'd like to address, as well as comment on that, and then we'll ask members for their thoughts. All right.
So pretty much the way Devin had described it is kind of the way it is. Some of the key things that we talked about while we were on site was moving that pool outside the 50. So the pool went outside the 50. I showed the utilities between the pool and the driveway, like requested. I have adjusted the plans to hopefully provide a legend with the table and also a visual of the impacts as well. So the light green along the coastal bank is our mitigation. The light green closer to the existing building and proposed building, that's removed, degraded. The light yellow is actually degraded, that's remaining. Both the existing driveway up going towards the street and within the house area. And then the new degraded area is the brownish reddish color within the house footprint. The remaining white area would be the existing lawn that's not being touched or not being changed. It sounds like Lucas Environmental has not had a chance to do a full review on the recent material that was submitted. I do have a wetland report that I can make sure that gets over to you guys. It was my understanding, I talked to Brad Holmes, and he had mentioned that he talked to Devin at one point, but I was not a witness to that conversation, so I got to follow up with Brad and make sure he follows up with Lucas. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you. Jen, do you want to add anything on top of that?
Well, I do want to say that I appreciate the color-coded plan. It certainly makes seeing what's happening easier. And then this might be for a little bit later down the road, but I mean, it is great that the concrete's coming out that went up to the bank. And then I guess at this point, I have a couple conditions I would want, but I don't think we're there yet. We want to make sure everything is on the plan how we would want it.
Okay. Let me get started on this. Who went out to the site visit? I wasn't able to go. Who was out there?
They went, Eric went, I was there. I don't remember.
So Richard, why don't you go first?
Well, from what I can see, first of all, it's a very complicated location. That's an understatement to say the least. And I think the applicants are trying their best to do what they have to do to make this work. But I don't think I have a lot more questions than that, other than we need the rest of all of the information in before we can do anything else. It's really a complicated area. And
Richard, you're kind of fading out a little bit.
Oh, well, how it would help if I put the microphone in front of my mouth.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry about that. It's a complicated area. It's a complicated area to say the least. I think we need the rest of the information that Devin mentioned before we can put our heads around the whole thing as it is. I can understand the plan as it's been revised, but there's a lot more to do, it sounds like.
Okay. Thank you. Penny?
Yeah, I was one of the lucky ones. I did receive today the revised plan, Brad's report, and so forth and so on. So really, until Devin has a chance to study this and to read the application and the narrative and Brad's comments, I really don't see that we can do much tonight until she's been able to digest it, because there is a lot of the information she was looking for is in what came in today. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Penny. Jen?
Yeah, I would echo Penny's sentiments. I might have missed the clarification on it, but there was I guess I'd like to understand why the remediation area is different, like the green buffer mitigation side doesn't seem to go as far as it used to. There was originally plans proposed on a neighbor's property. If I could understand those differences, that would be good.
Can I answer that now?
Sure.
So I had had a Zoom conference with Josh from your office, and it was our understanding that we actually didn't require any mitigation because of we're decreasing the degraded area by 2,400 square feet. So we did keep in some mitigation areas just to enhance to add a buffer to the coastal bank. This was kind of what Josh and I had talked about. If there's a different view, or that I need to re-review this with Josh, I'd be happy to. But that was kind of the intent here. We didn't think there was any mitigation that was required based upon the conversation we had with Josh, and I'm not throwing him under the bus at all here. It was a working meeting. But I'll be glad to go over it with him again.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Jen, or no?
The first plan was so positive and robust and exciting, and so this is not as positive, robust, and exciting, but that's for, like once we see the final plan, we can work through those things.
Okay.
Josh is here, and since he took up that meeting, if everybody's okay, if he wants to just comment quickly on that, that'd be great. Yep.
Hi, Josh Baker. I work with Jen. So me and Grady me and Darren had spoke about the performance standards for the Rivers Act. So strictly just under the Rivers Act, not regarding any town bylaw or any desires of the commission itself. The mitigation 10.58 G and F, I think it's F is mitigation, requires you to So you're not allowed to go over a certain percentage of degraded area. In this case, you can't exceed the current total because it's over 10%. And that, so the current total is 26.5. And we found out that the current proposal brings it down to 20.7%. So they don't need to, or they don't really proc the need for 10.58 G or F for that specific criterion. So that's kind of what I was letting him know. So to reduce the efforts he needed to do on somebody else's property. If the commission finds that the project doesn't meet criterions C and D, I think Devin mentioned, then they would again have to use mitigation to offset that impact. But that's sort of what I advised Darren about, if that makes any more sense.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we could, Jenny, you said us good for right now?
Yeah.
Okay, Brendan?
I'm kind of with Jen on this whole the mitigation thing. But anyway, I have nothing additional besides that.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
So yeah, I feel like I echo a lot of the sentiments tonight. I do definitely appreciate the color-coded plan. That is exceptionally helpful. I also think that the revision to the replacement trees is appropriate for this site, and it's good to see that. I do also echo Jen Foley's comments on just the change from the previous plan to this one relative to the mitigation area. And I do appreciate Darren and Josh's explanation as to why that changed. I do have concern, though, as it relates to the temporary stockpile area as to the invasives on site, specifically the Japanese knotweed. And if there is material going over there, it's being moved on site somewhere, and there is no mitigation for that invasive, I have concerns of that spreading potentially into the resource area or the marsh, which would be very, very bad. We do not want that. And given the aggressive nature of Japanese knotweed, where we did see in the gravel drive, the gray area on that plan, there's a tree smack dab illustrated in the middle of that. That's, I believe, the sycamore maple that we identified on site. And right to, paper south east of that, where we were standing looking at the Japanese knotweed, there was knotweed present, in that location. So with soil disturbance, heavy machinery moving around, and given the nature that Japanese knotweed spread asexually through stolons, there is a very real possibility that could spread across the property, accidentally. So seeing that portion of the plan changed is a little disconcerting, if not a little disappointing as well. But that's where I'll leave it for now.
Okay, thank you. Penny, did you comment?
Yes, I did.
All right. So we've checked with all the members. Do we have anybody in the audience?
I know Jill and Paul Tedeschi have their hand raised.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hi, it's Jill and Paul Tedeschi. Thanks for the moment. So just a couple of quick comments, because I know some of the commissioners were nice enough to come to the visit. So first, on the remediation in our neighbor's property, which I'd heard very few people, I think one of the commissioners mentioned that rarely has happened, or they hadn't seen that happen. We would prefer not to have to, bother our neighbor's property. She was very generous to offer that if needed as part of the project. But, based on what we spoke about the other day with Darren, we thought we were being more than generous by offering up the coastal bank mitigation, thinking the commissioners would appreciate that since there's nothing there now, but that there wasn't a requirement to do it. So now to hear that people feel disappointed that's been removed from the plan. The only reason it was on the plan beginning was because of, I guess, Darren's interpretation of the Rivers Act, and that's why that conversation with Josh took place. So I just wanted to kind of address that. As it relates to the staging area and the comments we just heard from Eric, we could put it somewhere else in the site. We're happy to look at it. We are subject to a Title V tank, which you can see right there, the leaching area. So we're concerned about equipment driving on that.
We've been told you can't put weight
Right.
on
So
that.
the only other areas to probably do it would be, closer to the coastal bank on that side of the property. We could look at addressing the knotweed. We're not going to address our neighbors' knotweed if we're not mitigating over there. It's not our property. But we can look at mitigating, if, and again, we didn't remove it. I'm not sure where that got lost in translation about the driveway knotweed. But we could certainly address that prior to any material, as part of the site work being staged there.
Yeah, and there were a few comments that Devin made about the stone wall, and we actually had a concrete contractor come to take a look, and he said it's a very simple saw cut. It's actually very thin at the stone wall, and he feels like everything can be done upland and it will not disturb the stone wall whatsoever. So our plan is to not do any work whatsoever on the stone wall.
Yeah, there were a
We
few-
we
there
will
were-
not go into the marsh.
Right. We did put the silt sock there, and the discussion about that was just if stones were down laying on the marsh, that we would put those back up, but that the silt sock would protect everything. But we have no real intention of doing work to that area.
Yeah, and for those of you who, didn't, we appreciate the people who did a site visit, and I know not everybody could be there, but I mean, in our feeling that so much of the site is degraded, and I know there's terminology with what's degraded and other terms, but so much of it is gravel and degraded, and our plan is to really not do any construction near the salt marsh. We appreciate, we're trying to be patient. We want to be respectful of the commission and their wishes, but we have, gone above and beyond with meetings and trying to speak with Jen and Josh, how we, can get this going. And, our first meeting was August 19th. And we respectfully, we didn't really have a choice to skip the next meeting in order to have the third person, the peer review. But the site visit was on September 6th, and we didn't get the report until Thursday of this past week. So we've been rushing, trying to get the report in, but.
Well, anyway, thank you.
Well, I have to say that I think it's moved along, given how this process goes and the people that are involved. I think that's moved along relatively well.
Okay.
And we'll certainly try to keep that moving, but it is in a sensitive area, and I think you are, it seems like you're working hard to protect that area, and we just try to work out the project with regard to the regulations, and I think we can get there, but it seems to me like they're moving it in a fairly timely manner. I know that everyone gets anxious to get moving, but hopefully just keep this moving forward.
Yep.
Do we have anybody in the audience, any other persons that want to speak to this? Jen Smith, do you want to add anything additional?
I don't want to add any. I think I'd want to see any other comments we want on the plan. Otherwise, I was going to have some suggestions just so that they have everything they need in their orders once they have them to just, continue. I know they took out the part about dealing with any invasives, but it probably would be good to put that in their conditions to manage those. The area right now that's kind of a tree line north of the house. I know, there had been some work proposed there, but the idea was to leave it alone. That's the buffer area, and that has its own benefits. So if we don't have to disturb it, we'll just leave it.
He's there.
And when we were at the site, we did see that the trees that were between the house, the trees between the house and the bank, some would need to come down, but some should come down. So, work has been, other trees and plants have been proposed because of that. I think we just want to make sure we have everything on the plan so it's easy to make sure that when the certificate of compliance comes, we know everything matches because there is a lot going on. So we don't want to lose anything when, by closing early.
So I guess that would be the best way to try to expedite this or move it forward. Just to recap this a little bit. So Devin, you're gonna review the submittal from Grady or and talk with Brad Holmes or review his information as soon as possible. Is there any direction that we can give the applicant either from engineers, agent, or members so that they can hopefully pull all this together?
I mean, I'm gonna try to expedite this review as quickly as I can. I do want to iterate to the commission. I do appreciate the changes that the applicants and Darren put together. It was just a day turnaround, so I'm not able to
Sure.
look at all of this. But yeah, so I would like to just take a deep dive again, look at the riverfront area impacts, and then look at the wetland report. I really do want to emphasize having transects, provided to the commission to make sure that this bank is delineated in accordance with, DEP's policy. It is important here. And then just to make sure that any temporary cumulative calculations need to be provided. So that means temporary and permanent combined. So if you're temporarily impacting anything, that needs to be calculated and provided to the commission. So if you guys need any clarification on that, I'd be happy to hop on a phone call or a Zoom call, whatever you guys need in order to expedite this and see this through. So that way that the board is satisfied with everything and the applicants are good to go.
Okay. Darren?
I can work with Devin on the temporary and permanent impacts. Obviously we're seeing a couple different things, but I don't see an issue as far as getting on the same page as far as qualifying those impacts. I will contact Brad Holmes and have him get in touch with Devin as well.
Okay. Do we want to can we continue this to the next meeting, to the 7th?
This, I think we can, because I think once we get to the 7th with this one, it'll be, it should be quick.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion, Frank.
Yep.
I make a motion, we continue, my cat's on my thing, 279 Gannett Road to October 7th.
Okay, great. And second?
I'll second that.
That's from Brendan. All in favor? Richard?
Yes.
And Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
And Eric?
Yes.
Great. Frank, yes. Thank you. Okay. 280 Central Ave?
Elevate, relocate, final.
This was one that we did a site visit.
Right.
And they submitted a revised plan, moving the house not as far forward. I think the deck is a little shorter, but the other piece is that the septic is now or is still on the back of the house instead of on the front of the house.
Right.
But Darren, you're still here, right? All right, I can let
Yes, that's
you
correct. Um,
continue with that update.
the septic's actually on the front of the house now, so it used to be further towards what's that wetland flag CD2, so it was closer to there. It's moved probably uh 50, actually maybe 20 feet because it used to be almost on that line where the 10.6 is to the back of the house. And we moved it to the front right over the leaching area. So the circle below where that proposed septic tank is the existing septic tank. And that's what we had discussed during the site visit is to put it back where the existing was.
Right.
So we worked the plan out to revise the pile plan to have this septic tank supported in this area. And I believe that's what the commission and yourself wanted. I don't know if it was clearly shown on the plan as far as what you were looking at. If you have any questions on that, we can
No,
discuss those.
I think that's what we were looking for. And then I think the other question was your plan had the house moving closer to the
To the beach, to the ocean.
beach, to the ocean. And we talked about sort of a compromise there a little bit.
Correct. I used to have a pile over near CD4, and it was actually in the coastal beach at that point. That pile has been pulled back from the coastal beach a couple feet. We still have a piece of cantilever over the coastal beach, but this is kind of what we were discussing at the site visit. So the end of this deck is comparable to the deck shown on 278. So it comes, but it's not as far as the concrete at 282. Does that sound familiar as far as what we were talking about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. To me, it does. It was Richard, Frank, Jen, and I think.
Mhm. But that is what we discussed, though.
Yeah. Frank.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at a plan that I have here.
Yeah.
Jen, can you comment on that?
On the location of the deck in the house,
Yeah.
that it's not as far as they originally proposed, but the deck now goes, well, it's hard to see where I'm pointing. It goes about halfway on that concrete patio deck next door of them.
Yeah.
I think I don't remember how many feet. The piles aren't going as far out as originally proposed. The house is the same. So nothing's changing with the house. They're going up higher. I think somewhere along the line there was a comment about the piles themselves being fairly old and needing replacement. So that was all kind of part of the project.
Right.
And also back to my back and front comment, in my brain, the ocean is always the front of the house.
Yeah.
So anyways, so yes, it's concerning to be moving into the resource area. Also it's tough that they're next to the seawall because then the ocean is just sort of channeled around that wall at them. But they're going up higher. They're going up on new piles. We're happy the septic is not moving farther, closer to the ocean, not, further into the resource. And we probably wouldn't want lattice under the house. and wouldn't want any of these decks. And there's still a lot of deck. We wouldn't want any of that to be covered. We'd want those to remain open.
Right.
It is proposed to be open deck.
So there's no skirting on the house or the decks.
No.
That's correct, except for to cover the septic tank.
Okay.
If it had been there this weekend, it would have been gone.
All right. So
And
Richard,
the Board of Health has approved the septic. Sorry.
okay, good. Richard, you
Yep.
wanna?
Well, I think it's based on where they started and where they've come back. The septic was a big deal. I think it's a reasonable because of where they are. With the wall right next to them, but not in front of them. They've got a little bit of a tough location. I can understand what they wanted to do, and they've modified it some. I think it's reasonable for the guys that weren't there, you almost have to be there to understand why it is reasonable for what they're trying to do. And they're not moving the house at all. It's just the deck, which is up high on piles, and the rest of it is rocks underneath the house. So I'm appreciative of what they've done. I'm okay with it. Like
just Richard, before we move on, I do think the house is moving slightly towards the ocean. Darren, you
the
can.
deck is. I don't believe the house is. I
think
could be
both-
wrong.
Yes, the house is moving closer.
If you look at
Right,
the
my mistake.
existing one and in relation to the deck next door, it looks to me like it's moving about 6 feet closer to the ocean.
The
I think it's,
house?
I thought we went to maybe 4 or 5. I
Or
don't
4
have
or
the
5.
exact
Okay,
number.
somewhere.
Okay.
I think it started
So-
out at 6, and that was part of what we were talking about, that we weren't moving it as far.
Okay. All right. So Penny?
No, I'm happy with it. The big thing to me, like Richard, was the septic. And it's all raised up and yeah. I wish them the best in the storms.
Jen?
Yeah, I don't think I have any new comments that haven't been said. I appreciate Richard's commentary, especially given how I generally feel about moving closer to a resource area.
Brendan?
Yeah, I don't have any additional comments.
Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I'm never a fan of moving closer to resource areas, especially in a situation where, it's free and open next to that seawall there. But I do appreciate, with all that being said, I do appreciate the revision. I think it's in line with what we were talking about before, both in terms of the deck and the piles. So I have nothing to add other than that. So we're good there.
Do we have anybody in the audience?
I thought I saw a hand up, so but I guess it was put down.
Okay. So just we did on the site visit that we did make out there. Originally when we looked at this, I too had the concerns about advancing closer to the ocean. As Richard pointed out, Penny, when we were on the site and seeing the proximity of the houses, the wall that's quite a bit further towards the ocean, and then lining up with the other houses, it didn't seem like we would be. It wouldn't create any real differences here. That coastal dune line or beach line can change pretty easily with the tide, and it just seemed like this was a reasonable place to look at a request to shift that slightly, given where the house was set and that they were moving it up. We also had some discussion with the owner about how they maintain that in the future. I think they were, with some younger kids, they were hoping to keep some sand under the house and keep it low. And we explained to them that they can't do that. They need to let the cobble build up along that line so it's consistent with the neighbors. They don't want to remove any of that, or they shouldn't be anyways, but making sure that they have a decent buildup of cobble so that they don't create a point where material's going to wash through. They're kind of in a little bit of a peril there anyways, because with the next door neighbor with a concrete wall and along their edge and another house going up. Luckily, most of the storms sort of come from the north, and that might protect them a little, but it creates a situation where all that water is going to be kind of forced into their area first. And they could feel the impacts of that. So I'd like to see them maintain a decent cobble area. A lot of people after storms do clean up out in front of their house, and a lot of them move it back to the beach side, and I think we'd strongly encourage them to do the same. That's about it for me. Take a motion here.
I'll take a motion. I'll make a motion to close. Thank you.
Penny, do I have a second from Richard?
Yep.
All in favor, Jen?
Yep.
Brendan?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
What are we on to? 18 Oliver Street.
Yes, we continued this one. If the owners are here, if they want to raise their hand. Otherwise, the recommendation from Brad Holmes was what they have meets the performance standards of what's there, but anything additional should be from the list he provided, which was a list of coastal plants. That's the super simplified version of what the recommendation was.
Richard?
Yes.
You want to comment on this one?
I will comment. I knew the former owner of the house, which would have been, I think, the father of the applicant. I know the house very well. I know they should have, of course, come to Concom first, and they didn't. But they've done a nice job. It's what they've done so far, and I'm guessing that they'll go by the list, but I don't know that for a fact. It's really all I have to say.
Eric?
Yeah, I mean the list is comprehensive. I think it's a great, selection for the applicant to be able to select from. I think that combination of, the plants on this list with what they've already done in terms of clearing and regrading and whatever else they've done on site should, improve the plant palette significantly.
Okay. Brendan?
I'm just going to agree with that, Rick, and leave it at that.
Okay.
He stole every word I was going to say.
Every single word.
I'll give you a chance next time to be first, Brendan.
No, it's okay.
Jen?
Nothing new.
Okay. And have we got everybody?
Me.
Penny?
Yep. No, I'm happy with it. I love plantings, as long as they're the appropriate ones.
Okay. Anybody? We don't have anybody in the audience, right? For this
I
one?
don't see anybody.
Okay. Um, so
Just one,
go ahead.
just one other question. I just didn't remember seeing it. I'm just reviewing it now. Is there a recommendation on like quantity to add? I apologize if it was discussed, but I don't remember off the top of my head, or if it was just pick some plants off of here. Or maybe I could just, like I said, completely missed if there was a suggested amount.
I don't remember seeing a suggested amount.
Okay.
Don't have to do any.
If you remember I don't know if you've seen the pictures of it. Right now,
Yeah.
everything is really very well spaced. And there's certainly room to add more if they want to, but it's very well spaced. It's not overgrown. And for what it's worth, it's a dramatic improvement over what used to be there.
Okay. Well, I'd take a motion.
I make a motion for a -3.
It's Penny. Do I have a second?
Second from Jen.
Jen, all in favor? Richard,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thank you. It's good.
Yay.
So for we have a few minor modification requests. Jen, do you want to
Yes, so I think
I'm jumping over A and
yeah.
B.
So 15 Bassin. I don't know if we can pull that plan up, but they had one of the changes I'm looking for it myself also was a trench maybe in front of the garage. I'm opening it right now. There it is. I don't know if you can zoom in a bit more. We did do a site visit and they're ready. They've put their infiltration system in as we requested for them to do. And then I think in the corner, maybe there was another, let's see, what did they say? Precast trench drains will be installed in front of the garage doors of both the existing dwelling and the proposed detached structure. These drains will be connected into the roof drywall system located in the rear yard. We view this change as an improvement to the site. Okay, that's from them. And then in addition, the Scituate Water Department has requested that a separate water service be provided for the new detached structure to accommodate this. The water main on Basin Lane is to be extended to a new fire hydrant to be installed, which is maybe if you scroll down a little bit more, is probably shown. That's just another a connection happening on the site, but I guess the other piece would be the big change here was what they were doing in front of the detached garage and the other garage as well. And if we were okay with this as a minor modification or if we wanted it as an amendment. If it helps, we did get certification about all the infiltrators being installed.
Okay. So again, the big change is adding these drains and a water line. Is it? What am I missing?
It's a connection to a fire hydrant.
Is that their change or the town's change?
Well, that was the town requesting that, and then their changes were the trenches.
Okay. And that's about it, Jen?
That's all I know of.
Okay. Penny?
No, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Richard,
Yeah, I think it'd be fine the way it is as a modification.
Jen,
Yeah, I'm good.
okay, Brendan
I'll be good as well.
and Eric.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think this is it's a tough site, but I don't think that what they're proposing, these are all changes are significant. I think under a minor modification would be fine, Jen.
Okay,
Do we
that
have
All
to
sounds
right.
good.
vote on that?
Okay. Um,
Do we vote on modifications?
Not a minor modification. I think Jen can
We
just
just
do
note
that.
it in the minutes. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
All right. 3A improvement plan.
Yeah. There's a few changes, but the one that's in Scituate is a catch basin is being shifted from the south to the north side of a driveway to a private residence that's on that road. The change is actually because of conversations with the owners of that home. Um, so I don't know if this is okay as a minor modification. I know we just did a modification on the orders a couple meetings ago, or if we want them to file an amendment and make it a public hearing. They did send confirmation that the homeowners whose driveway it's switching sides on know about the change also, just to make sure that was confirmed. Um, so I'm not, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I guess when the list of other changes are all on the Cohasset side of things.
This is the
Um,
sidewalk, right?
This is well, this change is regarding the catch basin.
No, I understand that, but the project is the bike lane or whatever.
Adding a bike lane and adding a sidewalk.
Yeah,
well,
Right.
they're redoing that whole intersection, so this is a fair amount of
Yeah.
work going on there. Remember, they came back to us because they had already made some changes, and we've reviewed that
right.
and conditioned that. I, I, well, anybody want to comment whether it's a minor modification or amended, or if anybody has any concerns about what they're doing? Richard?
I think it'd be a minor modification, and no, I'm not really concerned about it, especially if they've been talking to the resident who is apparently asking for this.
Penny?
Okay,
Okay to what?
to a minor modification.
Okay. Jen? Jump back to Jen in a minute. Brendan?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Jen.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Yeah, if Penny's good, I'm good.
There you go.
Oh boy, Jen, that's dangerous.
That's like the gold standard. Brendan, sorry.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
okay.
And Eric?
Yeah, I think I'm okay so long as these modifications don't have any significant impact to the plan that was presented. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't.
No. It didn't seem like it was that significant, to be honest with you. It seemed like
Yeah,
it,
just looking at some of the stuff on the chart or the little table, like it didn't seem that way, especially at the catch basin. But the other one on there was replication areas, shows clumps of trees instead of grid style. That seems incidental. So I think I'm good.
okay. All right, thanks. And I'm fine as a minor mod. So okay. And then lot 3, Captain Pierce Road. If you remember, if it's last meeting or the meeting before, I guess the town wanted to cut a couple of trees along the curve on this piece of property. This is the barn that is being renovated, and this has gone on for a long time. This was a much larger piece of property that got subdivided, And originally they were going to tear this down, build something different, and this plan has been sort of revolving or evolving. So Jen and I went out to the site and met with the owner and looked at what he had there, and he's got a pile of earth still there from doing excavating, and he's got a big pile of stones. So what he'd like to do is sort of he has a retaining wall for the septic system, and he wanted to sort of connect the remaining pile of stones to make a low wall right along the edge of the sidewalk. It's already lawn. A lot of this was altered a long time ago, so there's a bunch of lawn that's already there, and use those stones to make that wall. And then he wanted to use that fill to kind of make a slope from the edge of the sidewalk down into the lawn, which we told him he could not go any further than the 50-foot buffer line, and it would just be a way to soften that slope. Jen, if I'm off on this, just let me know. But and then we went there with Mr. Ford and Greg Morse to kind of look this over and asked them to give us a revised plan. So it's adding that row of stones, doing some fill, and then Mr. Ford was asking about the amount of plantings. He thought that there was an awful lot of plantings required and wanted to make some changes to that. But he's been sending us updates on his plantings, and it seems like he's moving forward with all that. Jen, do you want to add anything to what I just said?
Nope, that's correct. He's put in, he's provided a photo showing the plants that he's put in. And I guess we would want to do some sort of quick visit just to make sure it's marked where, how far the spreading of the dirt can go, and just make sure there's something visual there to say this is where it ends.
Right. Well, why don't we do that? We'll make that part of it. He's got to show that 50-foot line. The engineers or whatever has to lay it out. So he's kind of moved around a couple things a little bit here, but like I say, it was pre-existing, kind of cleared, and he's been massaging that a little bit, and he's put a few more rocks in, and I created a little bit of buffer or a barrier to the wetlands. And then we explained to him that it's a little more than that. So hopefully, what did we say about his wetlands markers, though, Jen? Was he supposed to continue to put those in a location?
I will open that one up. I don't remember about the markers. I remember we wanted to make sure we had a limit of work established.
So
I'll have to look at my notes on that.
So maybe if whatever we decide, if it's more, I think given everything that's going on there, I don't see why it can't be a minor modification. But I do think that Jen, we're going to want to clearly mark where he can put that, and then we need to make sure we know where these wetlands markers are going.
Okay, so yes, we did ask for markers in our orders. And then the question is, where were they on the approved plan? I think they were on the plan.
Right.
So on the mitigation plan, there are 4 markers, which 2 are on the 50-foot buffer, and then the other 2 are a little closer just because of how the house is already on the site. But they are on a plan, so they can be followed.
Okay. And we want to make sure that he gets this mulch sock in the right spot there. So, okay. So I think we're monitoring, Jen is monitoring this. We've met with them. This will probably consume a little more of our time than is necessary, but I think the minor modification is okay. Richard, go ahead.
I'm fine with that.
Penny?
I just wanted to ask a question, Frank. In the beginning, I think you started to, or you did state, and I didn't quite hear it, about that the town did remove some of the trees on that bend.
Yeah, they took 2 maple trees down.
Okay. No, that's a treacherous bend. Treacherous.
Okay.
Okay, no, I have no problem whatsoever with the modification if he stays within the boundaries you set.
All right. Jen?
Uh, Same. Um, I and we'll get some sort of like, I guess, how are we going to confirm that we're getting the things that we need? Like you don't people have to come to us for a COC or sorry, COC? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It was
And
like
he's gonna
certificate,
yeah,
but
he's gonna have to do
they
that.
don't have to, like they sometimes don't until somebody makes them. And so how can we kind of, without overburdening Jen, keep an eye on this getting to the place where it needs to without uh killing our office?
Well, that's what I explained to him when we were out there, that he's got to get that at some point. Um, and and he wasn't going to be in compliance where he was before. So
Well,
they
he
seem,
doesn't have a certificate of occupancy at this point.
Ah, okay. I didn't know if that was on the tape. Okay.
yeah. Well, but they can get a certificate of occupancy, excuse me, before they get a certificate of compliance from us. People often do that because the vegetation goes in. They've got the house up and ready to live in it, but they're still, planting and whatnot. So it is a difficult piece of that. And then, some people are clever enough to get that early and then say
Do what they
goodbye,
want.
get by to us, and then make a few more changes, and then others make the changes and then come back and say, "Oh, why it's not? Why is that a problem?" Um, but I don't know that we can solve that one tonight. But he does know that he's being watched.
He's
So
being watched.
um, so
Who
hopefully,
drive by, Jen?
Oh, I've
uh,
been by.
yeah. No, it's a little bit of a challenge on that one, but
We'll put our faith in him for a minute.
Well, all of these plans would be on the, or changes would be on the as built, because you need, if,
yes. Yep.
right, so.
Yep. Someone's going to have a plan and sign it and say that it's in compliance.
Someone.
Well, that'll be their engineer, and then we'll have
Yeah.
to verify it.
Yeah. No, sorry, I wasn't being
Yep.
sassy to you.
Yep.
Just
No,
sassy,
no.
just sassy in general.
There you go.
There you go.
What I hear tonight, though, is about the fence and spreading of some of the soil from the site, which is good because then we're keeping it on the site. Um, I at
Instead
this
of the
moment,
50.
though, we're not. I don't have a proposal to change the mitigation plan. Just
Oh, that's right. That was another piece of it.
so that there. I mean,
So originally there was a pretty significant mitigation plan because there was going to be a new house there. And then it changed to keeping this house, and Mr. Ford saying he doesn't think that it's really going to be of any benefit to do the amount of plantings that were shown in that, and he wanted to come up with something a little more simplified. But we don't have a
They'll
plan
have
for
to back.
right. So that would need to be formalized. I mean, like, which plants are you not doing? Which plants? He's done a lot of them. I don't know. We would need to see that and have that. Usually we get that from the wetland scientist of here's a recommendation of what we can do, and In this case, he'd have to say what he's not doing.
Yeah. Why don't we see if we can get a plan from him that's marked up, Jen, with
The plantings.
what he's proposing.
But having said that, it is a condition that, you should have it documented what went in. So
Yep.
we know what it was and when it was that it
Mhm.
was planted.
I'm sure he thinks that the pictures he sent us document that. But
Right. So I'll let him know, just, that's for his own, you want to get credit for it going in this fall, so he should have that documented.
Yep. Okay.
All right, so that was this one. So are we okay with the fence and the material being spread?
With the stones and the material.
Yes.
Yeah, the stones along the road there.
I think it's well. Go. I'm sorry. Anybody else? I forget how far I got with this.
The Jen Foley.
Okay, so
Maybe
Brendan.
Jen.
Yeah, so we're doing this fence and some soil there. What about the soil back by the deck?
That's what they're using.
Well, are they spreading it around there too?
Existing stockpile of soil in rear yard to be spread in shaded area, and that's in the 50. Like, how much is that?
I don't think the total, from what I could see, the total stockpile is probably 6 to 8 yards, and it looks like he's going to use a lot of it in the front.
Right.
I mean, the hard part about this is that's a 50, but there's buildings in the 50. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all been developed. I mean, the nice part is he's got a pile of crappy metal and stuff that he's pulled all out of that wetlands and the 50. So he's neatened up quite a bit of it, but I'm not quite sure why. I think they were just looking at, there's another small pile back there. They will just of loomy material that they wanted to spread and level out the ground. So it didn't look to me like it was more than a few yards, Brendan. I think now that I recall the back one by the deck, there is a small pile there. They were looking to just spread that out. I think that's probably 2 yards. Doesn't go very far. And then that front area to take care of that steep slope, that's probably 6 or 8 yards.
All right, and then there's also a change to the mitigation, which is not represented here.
We'll get more of that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, I think that it's okay so long as he doesn't, spread it outside of the shaded areas. But this is what we're sort of looking at. So I think we're good on the minor mod.
Okay. Thank you.
What about
All right.
Richard?
And Richard?
Yep, you already did, and I said okay.
Oh.
Okay. Jen, are you good with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sleeping.
All right, certificates of compliance.
Okay, we have, so 316 Hatherley Road was a raised rebuild near Egypt Beach area.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I also need to open this on my computer. The driveway ended up being a bit different, and they did put a fence up. The house is within the footprint that was approved as far as a footprint of a house. So I think there might be, like, the decks might be a little different, but it's all within that footprint, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
I guess the bottom line, Jen, are you good with it?
yeah, I mean, like I said, the driveway is definitely different. So that was I guess a
Wait, which
piece.
one
I
is
just
three?
want
Which one is
it's
316?
316 is the one it's next to town of Scituate land. It's got the
That's
pond
for
in the back.
parking.
Yeah,
The
we can't.
parking lot, Egypt.
Yeah, we can't issue a certificate of compliance for that one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, do you want to? Okay.
I think we need to have them. Maybe we might have to meet them, Jen,
Okay.
if they don't get it. But between the fence and the work in the towns and whatnot, I don't see how we can do anything there.
I don't think this is the plan. There's another one because the fence got moved out of the um, town land.
Okay. But is
But
it still closer? Um,
the driveway did change.
right.
I do have a hand up if you do you want to Chris Lucas is here. I think he filed this
Okay.
certificate of compliance.
Sure.
Asked to unmute. And
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Good. How's it going tonight?
Good. For the record, my name is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental, professional wetland scientist. I don't know if you want me to show my video or not. I don't have access if you wanted to see me or not.
you should be able to show your video.
It says the host has stopped it.
Well, I don't know. Okay.
Okay, that's I can do this on voice.
Sure.
We were just here tonight. The applicant Jen Morrison is on as well. They were looking to seek approval. I guess, are there any concerns you have that we might be able to answer any questions if there's a concern?
Well, I think, Chris, the driveway wasn't constructed per the plan, and I believe it's closer to the wetlands than what was proposed. And I'm wondering if and also I believe the fence area and some of the improvements to the lawn are closer to the wetlands. I think there was some sort of mix up maybe back when the project was done that the erosion control people put the erosion control at the wetlands line rather than the limit of work line. And so the whole yard expanded towards the wetlands, including putting a fence on the town property and clearing and altering that buffer area.
Right. If you'd like, I can share the screen and quickly show you what was proposed and what we have on the as-built that might clarify some of this.
Okay, so if we can open up the request for the CFC Scituate 316 Hatherley Road, I think it's the 8/16/24 is what the file's called. The last page of that is the current as-built. Okay.
Correct. Would it be amenable if I share my screen? I can show you the proposed plan and the areas that you're questioning and give you a little more clarity on that might help.
No, we have it set up so we share from here.
Okay. So the limit of work on the proposed plan actually extended close to flag FA8 and 7. The limit of work followed from A7 along the property line towards the road. So that area was all existing disturbed. It was actually paved. That was part of the paved driveway. That whole area where that wood fence in that lawn is now. The proposal was to remove the driveway and revegetate that area. The area between, it's hard, I can't point, but the area between the fence and Hatherley Road was supposed to be what has been revegetated except for the driveway. It is proposed as gravel, so it's pervious. The area in the wood fence is a lawn. They have it for their dogs to give them a safe area from the coyotes so they have a secluded area where they're safe. There was an existing fence, generally where the wooden fence is located along the back of the house. There was an existing fence there. So there's a new fence. It wasn't included in the oh, sorry, there was a wooden fence proposed along the back line that was approved by the commission. They just enclosed the side and the front for their dogs to have some safety. I had informed Miss Smith that the fence went all the way to the ground. I was incorrect. The homeowners are here. They did originally have it that way, and they took off the bottom piece so there would be a little bit of room for wildlife movement. Obviously, coyotes can't get in there, but small mammals and things could move along, like rabbits and such could get under there if they're moving through. I think it's having the fence there is a good barrier anyway, because you don't want critters going to Haley Road. You'd rather have them going into the wetland area and staying in the wooded areas. But overall, the house footprint is generally the same. There was the little addition of the deck and the AC unit off the house, but as Ms. Smith said, it's same footprint. The deck in the back was actually built a little further away from the wetland. The approved plan had the decking going out to elevation 9. As you can see, everything was pulled back further from the wetland with the overall structure. And the main difference there is that little portion that the reason they did the roundabout with the gravel drive is there were concerns with pulling out of the gravel driveway with the speeds on Hatherley Road. So they have that area to pull in and have some room to pull out. So we would hope the commission entertain it. It's roughly 700 square feet of additional gravel area, which again is pervious, and we have not increased the impervious. We overall on the site, we had roughly a 2,600 reduction of impervious surface on the site. So it was a good benefit. Everything's been moved back. We think overall it's still in line with the intent of the approval. We'll leave that to the board to further discuss.
Chris, I think our discussions prior to this were 3 modification requests. And it seems like if they were going to make these changes, it would have been appropriate to bring that to the commission prior to doing that work.
I was not involved in those modification requests, so I can't speak to that directly.
Well, there weren't any, to my knowledge.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're referring to these 3 modifications that, okay.
Well, there were 3 before for other projects.
Okay.
And my point is that the process is that you want to change something on the plan, you make that request. You don't just do it and then request a certificate of compliance. I'm a little lost here comparing this to what we approved. But I know it's significantly different. And we did have a fair amount of discussion about this site.
Yeah.
I will respectfully disagree. I don't think this is significantly different. I think that gravel driveway down to that curved portion of the driveway let me get the direction right here, to the east. That curved portion, that portion of the driveway is roughly 700 square feet of additional gravel that was not proposed. Yeah, I can't speak to the modification request. Yeah, I agree that should have come in, but it's built. I was brought in to review the site for the certificate of compliance. Mr. David Ray from Nantasket Survey Engineering prepared the as-built. I don't, is this something you'd like a modification request and then the certificate issued? How do you,
Well, I guess what I don't have in front of me is what we approved tonight. So I'd like to take another look at that. I'm also wondering what we conditioned for a fence, if it extended as far as it's been constructed.
The wooden fence was proposed along the back side, roughly where it is now, extending to just below flag 7.
I just don't remember conditioning work on that side of the yard that close to the wetlands line.
Well, it was disturbed to that end.
But that's irrelevant. What did we condition on the plan? When we went through this whole process, there's a wetlands line that's just off property, and in some places then it comes onto the property. But and maybe there were other things there before, but the applicant came in with a significant plan to alter this site, and it does have a fair amount of wetlands there, and I just can't see the difference that what we conditioned and what is there now.
No, understood. It's the southern and easterly fence was not part of the approval. That area was up to the wooden fence was paved driveway. The driveway came into the site at this location, was paved and approached the house. That part of the approval on the plan was to remove the driveway and revegetate. The area within the wooden fence has been revegetated with lawn. Everything around it's been revegetated. The portion between the gravel driveway and the fence is all landscaped and beautified, and then the area between the eastern side of the fence and the wetlands all naturally vegetated. And it looks good. We have some photos in the certificate that show some of that area. And it's been revegetated. I understand if you need to look at it again, but I don't feel it's a significant difference if you compare the two plans. The gravel driveway, it was the additional gravel driveway was not included. It should have come back. It didn't, but we're here now. We're hoping to resolve
But
it.
so I guess another point that I would make that, and I can't remember if we requested if there was any mitigation or plantings proposed as part of this project. Do you remember that?
No, not that I'm aware. There were none
Okay.
proposed in the NOI, and I did not see anything specific in the order. It was
But
just
but the reason we may not have asked for mitigation was because that they proposed to just revegetate the area, and now it's a fenced-in yard.
They did. Part of the mitigation on the project for not necessarily that area, but the proposed plan, there was a large area of a big part of it was the reduction of impervious. It's not too often you see a project of this scale with 2,600 square feet of reduced impervious on the site. Part of that was removing some of the area toward the east. There was a shed encroaching onto the town of Scituate land. That was all removed, and most of it's been revegetated.
Okay, I just remember a fairly lengthy hearing process with this one
Right.
with the wetlands in the back and along that side, and how this was proposed, and it doesn't look the same to me, but without the benefit of that other plan, I think we'll take a look at it
Okay.
Yeah.
and see how much that did change. I mean, maybe there should have been some mitigation worked out if it's that significant. But again, without having the benefit of looking at that, it's hard to say.
Okay. So what are your proposed next steps?
Um,
We had the plans.
I think we'll take a look at internally that we'll take a look at the plans, and then maybe we can bring that back to the commission. If we can do that at the next meeting. And see what's required.
Okay. So would there be any feedback to the homeowner and myself prior to the next hearing that if we need to address anything?
Yeah, we'll try to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, because I know we pushed it. We had filed for the September 9th hearing, but I wasn't available, so we pushed it out to this evening. Because I know the Morsons are hopeful to get this cleaned up and resolved soon, get the title cleared. Okay. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. 10 Newton Street.
10 Newton Street, that was a reconstruction. The plan there went according to the plan. So that one seemed okay to me. The other ones on the list, 8 Newell Street was for the dock. It's just hard to separate the dock from the house. So that one's not done. That one did get a superseding set of orders, and my understanding is some additional plantings are needed. So that work isn't done. They've done a lot of plantings, but they haven't done all of them. Then the Glades ones, 83, 83R, 85, and 87. They had filed a while ago. We asked for an updated as-built. It didn't have a few things on it that were on the site. So for 83, there's a patio that wasn't on the approved plan. The infiltration system was not installed. I think some of that was mentioned in the letter from the engineer. The plants went in. So they've had a couple seasons. The mitigation was on 83R. 85 and 87, those were, their own set of orders, and they look like the plan. But I know it's all one kind of big development, all connected. So I'm not sure if anybody wants to maybe go see it or has had any other questions when they looked at it.
Go ahead, Jen.
So I know I don't know how this stuff gets resolved, but I think what matters to me is, yes, these units have changed hands perhaps a couple times, but that doesn't matter to, or that shouldn't necessarily matter to the commission. What should matter is that, similar to one of the previous people we were talking to, uh, work has happened that was not approved or requested. And I wouldn't feel comfortable issuing a COC until that is remediated. I'm not sure how that gets remediated. You put in a patio and or you didn't install infiltration, which seems
I got to jump off on a call for 2 minutes. You guys can keep discussing this. I'll be right back. All right.
Yeah.
we'll miss you. So I don't know the answer to any of that necessarily, but it's frustrating.
Well, Jen, can I speak?
Yeah. I didn't know if you were
No,
talking to me
well-
or the other Jen, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you 100%. It's got to be according to what the plans were. End of story. You add something, you don't do something, you're not going to get a CSC. That's how I feel. It's really quite simple. And so if they've done stuff they're not supposed to, or they haven't completed it, then they just don't get the CSC.
So Jen, for these things that have happened that were not requested and or not installed, like the infiltration, we can say no CFC, but then do we subsequently have
Do an
some sort of
enforcement?
enforcement order, or
Well,
what's
I'm not
the
sure what the solution is.
Yeah.
I think what we say is what we have said, that we're concerned about that. So they said for the dry wells were not installed. There wasn't enough room. The downspouts discharged to stone sand where the water infiltrates with no erosion. But I think we can leave it out, as we still have some concerns about this work being different. At least on those two sites, 83 and 83R.
Sure, but if like we can be concerned, like, and we're not going to issue a COC, is it like we're concerned and we're not issuing a COC based on what we're concerned about, and then it's up to them to resolve it?
Yes.
Like, do they need the C? I think we go back and forth. Some people never come to us, I almost swore, for the CSC. And then other people are banging down our door in a wonderful way. So I want to know that it's going to be like these things don't just continue to exist and like, well, we don't like it, but you haven't asked for a CSC again. Am I making sense?
You are making sense.
Okay.
If
I
they
mean,
never,
maybe we need more information about the patio and its size and how what it changes for the flow of water over it. It's definitely an area that's water comes through. So are
Oh,
we
yeah.
speeding it up? Is it still, being absorbed at the same? I don't know.
Yeah.
and on these plans, have the engineers signed off as built?
Yes, the engineers have.
How can you do that if it isn't built
That's
right?
right. How can they do that?
Well, I think it says there's a little phrase that says it's significantly in compliance.
Substantially.
Substantially.
Oh,
So
that's not in compliance.
I'm gonna start to describe Eloise's behavior that way.
Can vary greatly.
She's substantially in
In
compliance.
compliance.
Substantially is a little nebulous.
I'm just going to substantially pay my taxes next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh, boy. Well, no, they don't get it, Jen. That's all. We're not done with them.
And I would say they're not getting it because there are things that were changed and we're concerned about them. If they'd like to come in and see what they can do to rectify it, then we'll talk about it. or something like
But
that.
at some point, does it turn into an enforcement order? Is, I guess, what I'm
I don't
wondering.
know.
Because on other, like, if they didn't need a CSC and this work did happen that wasn't permitted, we would say we don't like it. Here's an enforcement order.
That's true. We got a little quandary here. Maybe
I'm sorry, I missed a little bit of that, but so is this something, Jen, Smith, that you can get back to the engineers or whatever and say we're missing or we need X, Y, and Z?
Well, I think that we've told them that there's some differences on the plan, and I guess we can ask more specifics about whether we think it's significant.
Oh,
But I don't know whether we have a question of, if we have something specific we want, especially like patio or is drainage of the water as expected. Um,
Well, I think it's like, okay, uh, your plan doesn't reflect what was
proposed.
agreed to.
Yeah.
Line by line, why were these things done? Why is there a fence that wasn't permitted? And then at a certain point, somebody needs to file an after the fact with the appropriate penalties for all of those things that happened.
um,
I'm guessing.
I also think that it shouldn't be overlooked in terms of the infiltration. I mean, who
Yeah.
was the one, and sorry, I missed the comment that might have clarified this, but who was the one that determined that there wasn't room for downspouts and that the water just infiltrates anyways? Like, I wasn't part of the hearing on this initially, I don't believe. So I assume that there was a initial reason for an infiltration system, not to just dump it wherever the water may have landed. So I feel like that's a significant component to the COC.
Yeah, there was a lot of work done on this site, so it was definitely there for a reason, not just for fun.
Oh, and you got the marsh right behind them. Jesus.
okay,
We're not going to solve this tonight, but
right.
I say they get
So,
a no.
well, do we want to give Jen some direction in what to get back to them on? So that, I mean, 316 was the driveway, the fence, looking at the plan to see how they compare. So I think that's something we'll look at internally, and then we can send something back to Lucas on that one. I don't know, Newton Street and Newell Street. Are
yeah,
they
they're done.
okay? And they're in compliance, so we could do certificates of compliance for those two.
John Smith on Newell
Yes.
Street, that's just the dock, correct?
Just the dock.
Okay,
The plantings were part of the house. That's a
correct.
different order of conditions. That's a superseding order of conditions, but the dock work is done.
Well, that's what I actually was asking about last week, and you have explained it now. Thank you.
Okay. So then for the Glades Road ones, there's some variations between what was approved and what's there now. So is that a list of things we want the engineer to get back to us or the applicant to get back to us on?
I guess, and provide some more details, and then I mean, specifically the patio. Are we okay with the patio? It's maybe there needs to be more information about that and whether it's permeable or not. I don't think we usually condition impervious areas on these new developments.
Not there, you wouldn't.
Right. Like it's one thing to kind of have, it's a gravel crushed stone area and use it as a patio. It's another thing to put pieces down. I don't know how things were done underneath of those um, tiles, maybe. I don't know, pavers. Um, just to make sure it doesn't just become storm damage when there's something significant coming through there.
Well,
Okay.
Or isn't
inevitably.
isn't isn't speeding water up, that's the whole point of um,
Leaving it alone.
right.
Okay. Like, do you think we can work that out and get back to them with just what we want to, so that people are comfortable with what they have? Or if we need to have them make some changes?
Or explain the differences more,
Okay.
why they were made and what impacts it has or doesn't have.
Okay.
Um,
And let
I-
them know they should have come to us before they did the changes.
and your g- good point or good question about what to do with these modifications that we find out about at the point of the certificate of compliance. Um, I mean, I don't have an answer to it, but it's
Right.
something to think about so that we're giving the same answer to everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because it also applies to 316 Hatherley or whatever number that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably some other ones that are in the
Yeah.
pile as well.
Oh, no, 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 Jen, you're mistaken. Everybody else is well behaved.
Okay, moving. Let's move on.
Okay. Sorry. Enforcements.
Um, okay, well, just I added 16 Salt Meadow Lane.
Oh,
They don't have their erosion control in correctly at all, and it looks like more fill was brought than should have been. So, more happening on the Norwell side than was supposed to. So, working with that agent as far as a cease and desist letter is concerned until we get a erosion control in place and a um, existing plan, so we can confirm that the elevations are where they're supposed to be and how much fill was brought.
oh boy.
And then I guess, all right, so the other ones are, 115 Grove, talking with them, and the Chief Justice Cushing Highway, need to schedule a site visit. I started coordinating that, but I don't have a date yet. 109 River Street is the one about the fence. They added 3 panels of fencing on the side of their house. That's the one where it's um
Buried.
well, yes, concern about it being buried. Um, Not sure what direction we want to give. I do want to be clear that it's just that section. It's not the whole fence around the house. The rest of the fence was there before the Rays rebuild. So just that this one section was new, and I guess it's tricky because as things change in that area, given that it is a barrier beach, it is a dune, material does move. So if I don't know if there's something we want to look at more, or do we have instructions we want to give? I can see that the homeowner is on the call. I don't know if we have any questions. But if we have instructions to give them, this would be a place to give them, and then we can talk with them. They certainly have been in communication.
That's good.
I would think we would see if we could get them to take some of the bottom part of the fence off so there is some flow. I do understand that the sand in the area can move. So, it could be that they raise it and then periodically have to sort of pull the sand out from under it. But that would be normally what, if we allowed a fence, we would normally want it to have 2 or 3 inches at least of space between that and the ground so that water could flow.
At least a
Mhm.
foot.
At least.
Okay, so I'm happy to communicate that to them, to clear
Is
some
that
space underneath there.
is that enough?
I think a couple inches is, allows for things to move.
Yeah.
With the understanding that they'll maintain that
Yep.
spacing.
Yeah,
And
because
I
the
think if
sand there,
that's the case, then
if
yeah,
if they had water like this weekend, I don't know if they did up there, that's the dry end of the peninsula, but if the sand moves under it, you pull it back out, and periodically that's going to happen.
yeah. And I think that, the rain event this past weekend was the first that we've had in some time. So,
Correct.
pooling water or something like that would certainly be abnormal given the drought that we've had leading up
Right.
to that rain event. So it might not be representative of, a storm season type situation. But I
That's
think
right.
being reasonable, having space and having space maintained would be appropriate.
Okay.
What about Jericho Road, Jen?
I sent them a enforcement order
Okay,
to remove it.
okay. All right.
I haven't heard anything back from them, but that was just mailed last week. We
Okay.
do have a hand up if we want to hear.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I will unmute Maureen Hurley.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
We can.
Oh, great. So first of all, the as far
Can you just give us your name and
oh, sure.
address, Maureen?
Maureen Hurley, and I'm representing Walter Doherty. He's the neighbor. Are you at 111 River? He's at 111 River, so he's next door to 109 River. And we spoke about a month ago, I think. We appeared at a Zoom hearing about this, and I know that the board sent a letter, and I see that there is, that he's been in communication, but I want to be clear, we have pictures too. There are 5 new panels to this fence. There was a fence there, but 5 new panels have been put up. My client has pictures of when it went up. It was Memorial Day of 2023. Prior to that, there was the side by him. We've got pictures showing it's wide open there. So we've got that. We've got pictures of when it went in. It was buried in the sand from the beginning. It was never, nature didn't move the sand. It was all buried there. And as a matter of fact, we have a video I think that you've seen of the first time that there was a heavy rain after the fence was put up, of the water just flowing. It's diverting the water over into my client's property and causing gullies in the sand. But I think the purpose is the house is up on pilings. He's covered it all with lattice, I guess. But when he got a certificate of compliance, it was the builder kept like an 8-inch space from the bottom. The homeowner went out and filled it all in. He's put it all right down into the dirt now, the garage door, everything. And then he put the fence up too. So he's using the lower level for a room and a garage and whatever else he wants to do. And the point is, he doesn't want the water coming into what he's, his space under the house. And he's done everything that he can, including this fence, burying it so it will divert the water over to my client, which it had. That's what's going on. And the reason it's so important to him is because the other side is doing the exact same thing. They just are raising that house too. And I think as an example, this is setting an example of what you can do once you put your house up on piling. You can just, even though you get a permit, and the purpose of the pilings is to allow the water and the sand to shift. But when you put a fence in front of it and you put lattice right down into the sand, you're defeating the whole purpose of the pilings. And, it's hurting my client. So we're just looking to see, I know Jen said he's addressed it, and he's making it sound as if it's a neighbor dispute. It's really, he violated the Wetlands Protection Act. He just put something up without ever asking. And then when it was brought to the attention of the commission issued him, first they issued him a letter, and then they gave him a permit to fix it. by last October. He just never did anything. And then we came back in and asked again, and another letter was in, and he comes in and shows a bunch of pictures. I don't know what these pictures even show, but there's a fence that's buried in the sand, and I have pictures that show that that fence was never there after the house, but there was only a small portion of it on my client's side. Most of it that is now put in, he and his son put it in Memorial Day weekend of 2023. And that's what is causing the problem. And I think procedurally, just something should be done other than just say, well, show us some pictures, because my client can show pictures too to show you that it wasn't there. The man's making a representation that this fence was always there. It's absolutely untrue. If you look on the assessor's website of the house, you'll see that at that time, the lattice work was raised up. And if you look right now, I can't show it to you, but I have a picture. You can see that he's gone on under each point where the lattice is and added like another 1.5 feet so that it goes right down and touches the soil. His builder didn't do that. The builder did it appropriately, but he didn't like the fact that, I don't know if it was wildlife water or whatever was getting under there. And that's what I think that purpose of the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay, Maureen, I not to cut you short, but this is going to go on for a bit. We kind of don't have the benefit of really seeing all of this, and I'm wondering if maybe we need to get a little bit more information. I don't. People are not allowed to block or divert the flow of water,
right?
And that's understood. We get that, but we're kind of talking a little bit of abstracts without more information in front of us, and it's already after 8 o'clock.
Okay.
I just don't see a lot of benefit in not
So
having.
let me ask you a question though. I just want to know, would it be preferable, because it's gone on now for about a year, and sort of like he just says, I addressed it. Would it be appropriate for my client then to file a request for determination to say, was this, should this fence have been put up in a resource area?
Again, that may be one of the remedies that you have. Let's why don't I review this, or Jen and I, a couple of members, whatever, we can take a look at that and sort of come up with what we think is the best way that all the commission members, I mean, we're all looking at a screen with.
Okay, and I'd be happy to bring the pictures that I have down and drop them off tomorrow.
Also, the owner of 109 River Street has their hand raised if we want to.
All right, but it's got to be pretty quick, because this is, we're really not. This isn't really that helpful, to be honest, and without having a better picture of what's there. I get what they're saying, and it's a he says, she says sort of thing. So it's really kind of silly to continue to debate this or discuss it without some more information. But I think that since they've already been on, we'll take something real brief from the other person. But I want to have more information before we really dig into this. So go ahead.
All right. So the White House, Mr. White House, I've unmuted you, or I'm asking you to unmute.
I think it's 1
How's
minute.
that?
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, and just, you want to give us your name and address for the record, please?
Richard Whitehouse, 109 River Street in Humrock.
Good evening.
So, good evening. So I just wanted to say that that fence was never buried in. There was 4 sections that got put in, only 4 sections. You can look at the fence. You can see the color difference in the fence. That being said, it was set up on top of grade, had nothing to do with the water. It had everything to do with my dog being fenced in and keeping people from cutting from River Street up to the beach. And it was mainly the people from 111. Now what's going on, because the vegetation has all been removed from behind his house, the water now has taken the sand down and has actually buried the fence. I purposely didn't want to bury the fence because I didn't want it to rot in the sand. I wanted the protection for my dog. That's the whole thing. There's no more vegetation. I can do whatever we need to do for the bottom of the fence. We can lift it up, but the sand just keeps on coming until the vegetation has been replanted behind 111 and alongside the fence. It's just going to keep on filling in. I don't know what else to do with it. As far as last year when I got notice of a violation, I met with Amy and we pulled the permit, which I didn't know I had to pull a permit. But we pulled the permit and she approved me putting up the gate at the end of the fence. And that's how that ended up there, because I know that's in the attorney's letter.
Okay.
I'm at a loss. Without vegetation, the sand keeps on coming.
Okay.
I
Well,
redug
right
the
now,
field.
to be honest, I'm at a loss without having a better visual or an idea of this. I mean, again, we're just hearing this. We don't have anything to base this on. Sounds like there is some past history. We've got a permission to at least install something, so we'll take a look and see what that said. And then we're going to get some more information. If there's some photos or some additional information you want to share with us, that would be great.
Well,
And then,
I submitted a bunch of aerial photos that show what vegetation I used to have and
okay.
what vegetation used to be behind 111.
Okay,
And
well,
now
we
there's
don't have
nothing
any of
left.
that. We don't have any of that here tonight to consider. So, we're going to have to gather up some of that so that
Okay.
all the commission members can have the benefit of that.
I submitted that all to Jen.
Okay. All right. Well, again, we'll gather up some more of this and see what we can find, and we'll get back to both parties. All right.
Okay.
Thank.
Moving on, I'd like to do the minutes, Frank.
Yes, please.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes of 5/6/24.
I'm sorry, Penny, before you do, were there any other enforcement ones, Jen, that you needed something on?
Oh,
Nope.
nope,
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
that's all right. 5/6/24 and 9/9/24 as written. Those minutes.
I'll take that's a motion from Penny. I have a second. I guess nobody agrees, Penny.
Sure. Richard.
Richard does.
Richard does.
Um,
Thank you, Richard.
Second, all in
You're welcome.
favor, Jen? She may be gone. Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you. Thanks, Josh. Penny, what do you want to tell us?
Okay, I've got a
Have we hit on all the?
everything on the agenda, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had some open space updates, CPC updates.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna give right now. Okay, first and foremost, I'll be real quick. On Mordecai Lincoln property, the bids came in for the driveway and parking, and they're being gone over right now by Sean McCarthy and by the engineer, and hopefully we'll be giving it. I don't know if I should say the name or not until all the back work is done, but the bids came in good. So that's going to move forward quite quickly. The other thing there is that I did talk to Dan Finley, and because I have some money left over, and I will be able to do the Vista viewing, Frank, because that goes along with the handicapped accessibility on the property. So I was thrilled to hear that. So that's my Mordecai Lincoln.
That's good news, Penny. That's great.
Yeah, it's very good news. It's very good news. And I don't know if you want to do from here, Frank, about the MBTA berm and about me doing
Sure.
the application for the land for CPC, which I'm working on. I'll have that done tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. So Penny, I think we brought this up at a past meeting. We had gotten money approved with CPC to put a bridge or start the process of putting a couple of small bridges over the berm,
The engineering, Frank, that's
the
all.
engineering,
Committee.
for putting a couple of small bridges on these openings in the berm for they call it Russo mitigation. It's between the railroad bed in Greenbush and James Landing Marina, and it would allow a loop to go from the railroad bed over towards the driftway and be part of a looping trail.
Mhm.
But honestly, I had no idea we were talking about the kind of money that we seem to be getting into to build these couple of bridges. But the question is whether we want to continue down this path. I forget how much money do we have left for engineering, Penny?
70,000.
70,000 for engineering, but what was the estimate they thought that
Oh,
things-
150 for each bridge.
so
Kidding me?
$300,000 for these two bridges, and I'm really just questioning the
That's a lot.
yeah. But so do we move forward and spend the 70,000 or whatever we need to get these designed and permitted, or do we kind of pull back on that one? Jen and I have been talking about the Driftway Park. There's been some other discussion. There's questions about the amount of parking that's at the Driftway Park, the condition of the boat ramp, and some other work that's needed there. And do we want to shift our focus a little bit to that spot and then just return the money to CPC rather than use it on this? Because we haven't spent much of that money, right, Penny? I mean,
No, we haven't spent it. It's just been sitting. The
right.
good thing is, though, I can always go back another time and start this project up again. It's not as though we're abandoning it completely. But at this point in time, where would our energies be better spent? And on the Driftway Park and get that up and running, and then I can always come back to this and go to CPC again and start the process. But I hate to see the money just sitting there when we could use it somewhere else, possibly on a CPC app.
So I don't know if you're prepared to want to vote on that tonight or you want to wait.
Well, the reason I personally would like a vote on it because the first meeting of CPC in October, they're gonna ask me, what are you doing with these funds? And
Okay. Does the rest of the commission have enough info to follow this? What we're talking about, Richard?
Yeah, I think so. And my own, it seems like an awful lot for those. How long are those friggin' bridges gonna
And
be?
not that long.
Yeah, I know. That just seems.
It does to me too.
So I think unless there's something else that could be prioritized to use that money, give it back, and I'll take Penny's word that we can go back after it if something else crops up or if this becomes more reasonable.
let me just say one more thing. The money that we have, okay, it is only can be used for engineering.
Right.
All right. So I can't use something else for something else. But if we give it back, it goes back into our open space fund, and then we can ask for it possibly towards these land purchase we're looking at up the West End.
Right.
Now,
So you
or
get more
something
flexibility
else.
that way.
Right. Okay. Jen, are you still with us?
She is not.
Okay. Brendan, any thoughts on that?
I'm sorry. No, I really don't. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Eric?
Eric?
Yeah, I think that not pursuing the engineering on this project is the right course of action, diverting our efforts and focus to somewhere else. And then, should something pop up at some point, we want to reintroduce this project. We go forward with it for now, but to allow Penny to hop into that CPC meeting with a clear directive, I think that we change course.
Okay, thank you.
So can I make a motion, Frank?
You can. So
Yeah.
Jen, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea to what you're saying to pull the money from being held for the project of building the bridges or engineering them, and whether it's work on the driftway or um, additional land to protect resources makes sense.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that the Situate Conservation Commission gives back the $70,000 that was appropriated from CPC for engineering and permitting of 2 bridges.
That's a motion from Penny. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
From Richard, all in favor? Brendan
Yes.
and Eric?
Yes.
And Frank, yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
Hey, Frank.
Good. Okay, thanks, Penny.
Okay, the other thing, Frank, do we need to take a vote for me to go forward with these apps for these lands
I
up the
don't
Western?
I don't think we need to do that. Just we've been approached. Two things. I think the
Yeah.
Davis land is moving along, trying to get to the select boards and whatnot. But Jen and Josh have been pushing that along, so I think that will continue. It's just a process, but it's all in the works. And then we've been approached by person that would like to protect their property, and there's also another large chunk in back of them that wants to be protected or whatever. So we're trying to put something together to go to CPC for another open space purchase off Clap Road. And I don't want to get into details on it just yet, but it's it looks like we have a couple of parties that would really like to work with us and see if they can't get these parcels protected, and they're already adjacent to open space we already have. I think it would be a good asset. Penny's pulling up some info so we can get an application into CPC
By October 1st.
and then we'll have more information for the commission, because I think we'd like to get an endorsement from the commission, but I think that should be I think it should be something that's posted on a regular agenda.
Okay, so, but I will fill out the applications and get it into CPC, Frank?
Yeah, oh yeah, we want to hold that space with CPC and
Okay,
we'll keep formalizing that, Penny. So
okay, but I
thank-
need to talk to you in the next few days, just a couple of questions, okay?
for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing that. Go ahead.
Sorry, Frank. Just one
Yeah.
thing, Penny.
Yeah.
We don't have to discuss it tonight, but I think it would be advantageous for the two of us to meet at Mordecai Lincoln. I visited twice so far to just do a vegetative assessment.
Yeah.
The latest was this morning.
Oh,
I
did
have
you
some
go?
thoughts. I have some thoughts on what's there and maybe what we might want to consider moving into the winter time in terms of just some minor things.
Okay.
So once you're all set with, whatever you need to take care of in terms of your applications, I don't want to take you away from that. It shouldn't be a long meeting on site. But let me know a few times and dates that you're available during the week after, say, 3:00. And then, we can put something together to meet up quick.
Okay, I will get back to you in a day or two, okay?
Yeah, no worries. but
Because
just wanted
I'm
to introduce
around
that tonight.
99% of the time, but I do have a few different procedures coming up that I have to look at my schedule, okay?
Yeah,
But
of course.
yeah, I
Like I
want to
said,
get out there. I'm excited about it, Eric. Thank you.
yep, you got it.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Penny. I can't think of I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at, did we get the proof on the signs out to everybody?
Uh-uh.
No, not yet. I haven't sent that out. I don't have a proof. I just have a quote, and Jen was gonna get an updated quote to do possibly an adhesive over the existing sign, so it's not a whole new sign.
I was supposed to get back to you with a size on those too. Okay.
Yeah, we want to confirm that they are 2 feet by 2 feet. That's what
Okay.
I have documented, but it'd be good
I'll-
to visually see that and
I'll try to
confirm
get
it.
that to you tomorrow, Jen.
Okay.
All right.
I'll take any feedback on mitigation policy. If you glance at it, let me know any thoughts. But the point is just to have something to help be consistent, not for it to be, regulation, just trying to communicate expectations. And did we have any? Okay. Nope,
And then
those were
just
all
the other
minors.
thing, we've been trying to move forward a little bit on the maintenance of the Driftway Park, and the town has kind of come up with a little different policy on hiring people for some of this. So we're in the process of figuring out how we're gonna move forward with that. So taking a little bit longer than we hoped as usual, but
Frank, can I just ask you a question on that?
sure.
So is the Driftway Park definitely on the list that Nancy Hoyt put together for that maintenance thing?
I think what the town did was the town, similar to what they've been doing with the DPW, like for different, the town looks for from different people, whether it's a plumber or electrician or
Yeah.
or whatever, is they have the person to work on the streets. They have these like general pricing. So someone would price an hourly rate for their equipment, their labor, that sort of thing, and the town gets those bids. And then they can go to that person to get that work done. So they hadn't had something apparently on for landscape work. They had individual projects that they had pricing on, but they didn't have like an overall person that they could say, we want to find out who would do this by the hour. So they solicited bids, they got some bids. I think they have that stuff in place. So now we need to figure out how to work with that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paul had put together that great list of stuff that we need to do there.
Right.
I think we just have to review it with who's ever responsible for that.
Yeah.
All right.
Need to get them out there. Okay.
All right.
A little confusing to me, but I'll figure it out, I guess.
We'll get it, Penny.
Yeah.
I'm
glad
Okay.
I make you laugh, Frank.
I guess we can't, if we don't laugh at it, we'll go
Oh
crazy.
yeah, no, we have to. You have to. You have to.
I
think that's
and
it.
then yeah, for tonight, I think we're good.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we.
Does anybody else have anything?
No, I'll make a motion to close.
You beat me,
I'll
you-
second that motion.
Whoa.
I got a motion and a second. So all in favor, Penny
Yes.
and Eric.
I suppose so.
Oh, you're having
Frank,
too
yes.
much fun, Eric, huh?
All
There you go.
right. You guys have a good night.
You too.
Ladies,
Oh,
ladies.
you too,
Take care.
Frank.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Off we go.